Beneath the Shadows, the last hour of Detective Harper. Chapter 1. Shadows in the Alley. The neon lights of the diner flickered as Detective Mia Harper stood under a street lamp, her breath visible in the frigid New York night. The city's hum seemed louder in the dead hours, a mix of distant car horns, muffled arguments, and the occasional shatter of glass. It was here, in an alley behind Rosie's diner, that the body of Jimmy Lawson was discovered, his face contorted in terror, a single bullet hole clean through his temple. Mia crouched near the chalk outline, her gloved hand brushing against the cold, damp asphalt. A faint trail of blood led to the dumpster. She glanced up as Officer Ramirez approached, holding a cigarette between his lips. Cause of death seems pretty obvious, but why here? Jimmy had a lot of enemies, but this spot feels too convenient. Mia nodded, her sharp eyes scanning the scene. Convenient for someone who wanted it found. This isn't just a murder, it's a message. Chapter 2. The Ghost of Midtown. Jimmy Lawson wasn't just anyone. Known as the Ghost of Midtown, he operated in the shadows of Manhattan's underworld, orchestrating high-profile heists and disappearing before the dust settled. But lately his name had been whispered in connection with something bigger, something dangerous enough to cost him his life. Back at the precinct, Mia sifted through Jimmy's file. Ramirez leaned against her desk. Word on the street is he was into some deep stuff with the Vescovi family. Mia looked up. The Vescovis? They've been quiet for years. Exactly, too quiet, Ramirez said, exhaling a plume of smoke. Mia's phone buzzed. It was an anonymous tip. Check the storage unit on 12th and Grand. Tonight. Chapter 3. The Storage Unit. The storage facility loomed like a fortress under a moonlit sky. Mia and Ramirez entered cautiously, flashlights cutting through the darkness. The unit in question was unlocked, its metal door slightly ajar. Inside, they found stacks of cash, unmarked crates, and a ledger filled with names and dates. "This is a treasure trove," Ramirez muttered. "Drugs, weapons, and—" He flipped through the ledger. "Payments to cops, lots of them." Mia's heart sank. This is a kill list. Jimmy was about to expose someone big. Footsteps echoed behind them. They spun around to face a shadowy figure holding a silenced pistol. "You shouldn't have come here," the man growled. A gunshot rang out. Chapter 4. The Trap. The bullet missed by inches as Mia dove behind a crate. Ramirez returned fire, but the figure disappeared into the darkness. Sirens wailed in the distance as backup arrived, but the shooter was long gone. Mia examined the ledger more closely. One name caught her eye. Captain Frank Mason, her superior. "This goes all the way to the top," she whispered. Ramirez frowned. "If Mason's involved, we can't trust anyone." Chapter 5. The Double Cross. The precinct buzzed with activity the next morning, but Mia felt the weight of suspicion. She couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Captain Mason called her into his office, his demeanor unusually calm. "I hear you've been busy," Mason said, leaning back in his chair. "Care to explain why you're poking around things that don't concern you?" Mia met his gaze, her voice steady. "Jimmy Lawson's murder concerns all of us, doesn't it?" Mason's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Watch yourself, Harper. You're treading on thin ice." Chapter 6. A Friend in the Shadows. Later that night, Mia received a call from a blocked number. The voice on the other end was familiar. "Mia, it's Alex. I've got something you need to see." Alex Ford had been Mia's partner before he left the force under mysterious circumstances. They met in a secluded bar, where Alex slid a USB drive across the table. "This has everything: transactions, recordings, evidence linking Mason to the Vescovis. But it's not enough. You need to catch him red-handed." Mia clenched her fists. "Then we set a trap." Chapter 7. The Sting. Mia and Alex orchestrated a fake deal involving the ledger, using Ramirez as bait. The meeting was set in an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city. Hidden cameras captured every angle as Mason arrived, flanked by two of Vescovi's enforcers. "You think you're smart, Harper?" Mason sneered. "You have no idea who you're dealing with." "Neither do you," Mia shot back as the SWAT team swarmed in, guns drawn. Mason and his associates were arrested on the spot. Chapter 8. Justice Served. The evidence was overwhelming. Mason's trial became the talk of the city, exposing corruption that reached far beyond the precinct. The Vescovi's empire crumbled under the weight of the investigation. Mia stood on the courthouse steps, the winter sun warming her face. Alex appeared beside her, a rare smile on his lips. "You did good, Harper." She nodded. "So did you. Maybe you should think about coming back." Alex chuckled. "We'll see. For now, I think I'll enjoy the quiet." As he walked away, Mia felt a sense of closure. The city was far from perfect, but tonight it felt a little less dark. Chapter 9. Loose Ends. Weeks after Mason's arrest, Mia found herself driving through the dimly lit streets of Queens. There were whispers of a new player stepping into the void left by the Vescovis. She parked outside a derelict warehouse, her instincts leading her to the source of the rumors. Inside, she found a group of young gang members in a heated discussion. One of them noticed her presence. "You don't belong here, Detective." "Neither do you," Mia replied, flashing her badge. "Let's make this easy." But nothing about the underworld was ever easy. Shots were fired, and Mia barely escaped with her life, realizing that the war was far from over. Chapter 10. A Deal with the Devil. Mia's investigation into the new power structure led her back to Alex. He had been keeping tabs on the criminal underworld, and his intel pointed to an enigmatic figure known only as the Broker. "If you're going after the Broker, you'll need more than just guts," Alex warned. "This one doesn't play by the rules." Mia's resolve hardened. "Then neither will I." Chapter 11. The Final Piece. Tracking down the Broker required a combination of tech savvy and street smarts. Mia enlisted the help of a hacker, Lily, who uncovered a series of offshore accounts linked to shell companies. The trail led to a luxury penthouse overlooking Central Park. Breaking in wasn't the hard part. Confronting the Broker, a charismatic woman in her 40s, was. "Detective Harper, I've been expecting you," she said with a sly smile. "You're under arrest," Mia declared, her gun steady. The Broker laughed. "Do you really think this ends here?" Chapter 12. The fall. Mia secured the Broker, but not without resistance. As they descended in the penthouse elevator, her phone buzzed with a warning from Ramirez. Multiple units en route to the location, not all of them friendly. The Broker's smug expression returned. "You're walking into a trap, Detective." Mia gritted her teeth and activated a panic alert to her trusted team. As the elevator doors opened, a firefight erupted. Mia shielded the Broker, knowing her testimony was key to dismantling the operation. With Alex's timely arrival, they escaped the ambush, leaving behind chaos and wounded corrupt officers. Chapter 13. A New Dawn. The Broker's testimony unraveled layers of corruption. High-ranking officials faced charges, and the Vescovi remnants were eradicated. Mia received commendations, but the victory felt hollow. Over coffee, Alex handed her a case file. "This isn't over. There's always another layer." Mia opened it to find details of an international syndicate. She sighed. "Looks like I won't get that vacation." Alex smirked. "Did you really want one?" Chapter 14. The Syndicate. The new case led Mia overseas, where she navigated unfamiliar territories and faced adversaries who operated on a global scale. Alex joined her as a consultant, their partnership rekindling in the face of new dangers. They uncovered a network of traffickers, hackers, and financiers, all orchestrated by a shadowy council. The stakes were higher than ever, but Mia thrived under the pressure. Chapter 15. The Final Showdown. The climax brought Mia to an opulent gala in Paris, where the council convened. Disguised as a guest, she infiltrated the event, planting surveillance devices and gathering intel. When the council realized the breach, chaos ensued. Mia faced off against their enforcer, narrowly escaping with Alex's help. The evidence she collected brought the syndicate to its knees. Chapter 16. Betrayal in the Ranks. After returning to New York, Mia discovered a mole within her own department, a detective leaking information to remnants of the syndicate. The betrayal cut deep, but Mia confronted the mole, exposing their actions during a tense standoff. Chapter 17. The Reckoning. The remnants of the syndicate retaliated, targeting Mia directly. They ambushed her at her apartment, forcing her into a desperate fight for survival. With Alex's help, she managed to fend them off, leaving the city shaken by the escalating violence. Chapter 18. A Brighter Tomorrow. In the aftermath, Mia received a promotion in a rare moment of peace. She and Alex stood on the Brooklyn Bridge, the sunrise painting the sky. For the first time in years, she felt hope. The fight wasn't over, but for now the shadows had retreated. Chapter 19. The Final Hour. Months later, a strange package arrived at Mia's desk. A black envelope with no return address. Inside was a single photograph of a map, marked with a red X. Beneath it was a note. One last secret. The coordinates led her to an abandoned industrial facility on the outskirts of the city. Knowing it could be a trap, Mia called Alex and Ramirez for backup. The trio entered the facility cautiously, finding a room filled with screens showing live surveillance feeds of key locations across the city. The police precinct, city hall, and even Mia's apartment. A timer on one of the screens ticked down ominously. 5 minutes. A distorted voice came through the speakers. "You thought you won, but you missed the bigger picture. This is your final hour, Detective Harper." Panic surged, but Mia's focus sharpened. She found the control panel and worked with Alex to disable the system while Ramirez covered them. The timer hit 0, but instead of an explosion, the screens went black. The silence was deafening.